We are now 3 days away from Super Bowl 59, 1 month away from the kickoff to SBJ's 2025 conference season, beginning with my personal favorite, Tech Week in New York City, exactly 1 year away from the opening ceremony to the 2026 Winter Olympics in Italy, and about 19 months away from the NFL's Australian debut. I'll have more for you on that shortly. This is your morning Buzzcast for Thursday, February 6th, and I am SBJ senior writer Joe Lemire filling in for the day. The big game, of course, is Sunday evening, and Fox Sports will have 149 cameras at its disposal on Super Bowl Sunday to capture any movement by any Chiefs or Eagles player, from their tunnel walk fashion to the sidelines in the game. If A.J. Brown expands his in-game reading list, we'll know about it. If Travis Kelce screams at or bumps into Andy Reid again, that'll be dissected from multiple angles, I'm sure. If Taylor Swift does, well, just about anything, that will get shown too. I spoke with Fox Sports Executive Vice President Michael Davies earlier this week about preparations, which include a record deployment of Sony cameras of all models and resolutions. Nearly 80 cameras will be used even before 6 o'clock Eastern rolls around, and attention focuses on what's happening inside the Caesars Superdome. Before then, Fox has ambitious plans for a set on the corner of St. Peter and Bourbon, the epicenter of the French Quarter, as Davies put it. With more than 100 cameras available for the game, Davies knows what people will ask. Why do you have so many? How can you possibly use all of them? Well, he was frank in answering his own question, saying, the truth is, there's a good chance that a lot of them don't get used, because they're really just there to make sure that one esoteric play we have from multiple angles, to make sure that we were able to serve the fan in explaining what went on the field. That's right, they are preparing for every contingency. In this week's SBJ Tech newsletter, which hopefully hit your inboxes last night, but is also available on our website now, I examined a pair of innovations related to the 2 sky cams that will be hovering on tethered cables above the field. Davies referred to the sky cam as, quote, probably the most important camera in a football game. The lower one will operate 12 to 35 feet above the playing surface, and the high sky cam will roam 55 to 90 feet above. Using ultra-high definition and a new use of LiDAR, that's the same laser-based distance-finding tech found in most autonomous vehicles, Fox will be able to provide analyst Tom Brady with superior views of the action and complement the overall production with better graphical presentations. It took significant R&D to get there, but not only does Davies think Sunday's viewers will benefit, but like the Hypermotion camera and the enhanced Steadicam before it, he expects it to become table stakes for future sports broadcasts. There will also be COSM pylon cameras and the super high-resolution cameras COSM uses for its immersive viewing domes that Fox will also be able to access on replays. Everything will be covered visually, not to mention the 48 microphones for game and player sound. Supporting all this were 53 new miles of fiber and cable installed in New Orleans. Davies emphasized that while the Super Bowl is a time for innovation, it is not a time to give in to the temptation for gimmicks, explaining Fox's role as this year's steward of the game. What may seem new on Sunday has been well tested in the background and has been slowly appearing in the live broadcasts in recent weeks. Whatever production cost is involved, it'll be offset by some expected record ad revenue. A double-digit number of Super Bowl commercials sold for a record $8 million apiece. When Fox last had the Super Bowl in 2023, it generated nearly $600 million in ad revenue and seems likely to exceed that this year. In other NFL news on Wednesday, the league announced that it will play its first regular season game in Australia in 2026. The Los Angeles Rams, one of 2 franchises with designated global marketing rights in the country, will be involved, but their opponent was not yet announced, and perhaps won't be until after the 2025 season sets their schedule. The game will take place at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. It is a multi-year commitment to play in Australia, which will be the 7th international country to host an NFL regular season game, joining Canada, Mexico, England, Germany, and Brazil, with Spain on tap for its first game later this year. The NFL may not, however, be expanding its slate of regular season games to 18, at least not without making significant concessions. NFLPA Executive Director Lloyd Howell spoke on Wednesday and said, right now, when I've talked to players over the last 2 seasons, no one wants to play an 18th game. No one. 17 games, for many of the guys, is too long. In reference to Commissioner Goodell's recent statement that safety data favors expanding the regular season, Howell said his team is not sure how he's reaching that conclusion based on the data we've been given access to. Season length and player safety are complex issues, of course, and I'm not specifically familiar with the data Goodell was thinking about either. But the NFL is certainly pleased with numbers it shared last week that concussions were down 17% year over year, down to their lowest since close record keeping began. Time lost to lower extremity strains was down 14%. The new dynamic kickoff seemed to have the intended result too, with more returns and fewer injuries on the play, even if some critics still couldn't get over the visual aesthetics of the play. When it comes to player health and safety data, and the engineering work required to produce it, almost all of that is done by BioCore, the Charlottesville, Virginia-based firm led by Jeff Crandall. Shameless plug time. My profile on Crandall is in this week's issue of the magazine, which hopefully has, or soon will, hit your mailbox. We'll wrap the Buzzcast with a few quick-hitting news items. Heat forward Jimmy Butler, who has been suspended by his team 3 times this year, was traded to the Golden State Warriors on Wednesday night, where he also signed a 2-year, $121 million extension with his new team, placing him just shy of the average annual value new teammate Stephen Curry is making at $62.6 million. Over to golf, the USGA created an exemption category for at least one LIV Golf player to compete in future U.S. Opens, beginning with the 2025 edition at Oakmont in June. Others will have the opportunity to go through qualifying. Down in Texas, Governor Greg Abbott said he had, quote, no objection to online sports betting, signaling that the second most populous U.S. state may indeed join the 38 states and District of Columbia that have already legalized it. And the NWSL will create a $5 million fund in response to allegations of emotional and sexual misconduct by coaches toward players in 2021. Also part of the settlement is continued safety protocols, including, but not limited to, increased vetting of personnel, mechanisms for reporting abuse, access to free counseling, and more. Retired Judge Barbara S. Jones, who served as a committee member in the 2022 NWSL investigation, has been tasked with administering the fund. That's all for me today on this Thursday, February 6th. This is Joe Lemire signing off for the Morning Buzzcast. Thanks for listening.